Abandoned hospitals have a way of sticking in your mind long after you leave. Not because of decay or graffiti or even the rats that scuttle through broken corridors. It's the air itself, thick, heavy, almost alive, like the building remembers the people who suffered and died there. I didn't believe in haunted hospitals until I stepped inside one that nobody should have been near. Every sound echoed too clearly. Every shadow lingered too long. And by the end, I realized the scariest part isn't what's there. It's what follows you home. I shouldn't have gone into Ward 13. That's the truth. But curiosity has a way of overpowering reason, especially when you're young, stupid, and thinking you can handle anything. It was my first night exploring the abandoned hospital on the outskirts of town. Everyone warned me to stay away. They said the building was collapsing, dangerous, crawling with junkies, or worse. I heard the warnings, nodded, and ignored them. I parked my car behind a tangle of weeds, grabbed a flashlight, and slipped through a broken service door. Inside, the air smelled like rust and rot. Old hospital smells, chemicals, mildew, antiseptic ghosts lingering decades too long. The floorboards creaked under my weight, and every step seemed to awaken some unseen presence. I found the stairwell leading to the upper floors, the banister coated in decades of dust and grime. The elevators were gutted, shafts open to darkness that seemed to stretch endlessly. I took the stairs. Ward 13 was on the third floor. I'd heard rumors, the old psychiatric wing, where patients were often left alone for days. The rooms were small, narrow, some with iron bed frames still bolted to the floor. Papers littered the ground. Rusted syringes glinted in the flashlight beam. Broken wheelchairs lay in corners like abandoned animal skeletons. I walked down the main corridor, my flashlight shaking slightly in my hand. That's when I heard it, a faint echo of laughter. Not a child's laughter. Something hollow, human, but wrong. It came from one of the rooms at the far end. I froze. "Hello," I called, my voice cracking. Nothing. I stepped closer. The door to room 312 was cracked open. I pushed it gently. Dust swirled. The room was empty, or so it seemed. Then the laughter came again, louder, coming from behind me. I spun around. Empty hallway. I felt a cold wind brush past my neck. The flashlight flickered. I shook it, trying to steady it. That's when I saw it, a shadow, long and thin, stretching from the corner of the room toward me. Not my shadow. Something darker, deeper than the black of the floor. It didn't move like a person. It slid. A whisper followed. "You shouldn't be here." I stumbled back, almost falling. My flashlight went out. In the pitch black, I felt it. Pressure. Not physical, but mental, like the room itself was pressing down on me. I heard whispers now, dozens overlapping, coming from every wall, floor, ceiling. Patients. Nurses. Something else. Voices I couldn't place. I ran. Down the corridor. Doors slammed behind me. The echoes of my own footsteps were joined by others, running, shuffling, pacing. I reached the stairwell and bolted down 3 flights, my lungs burning. At the exit, the broken service door slammed shut on its own. I yanked at it. Locked. I pounded, screamed. Nothing. When the morning came, a janitor found me curled up behind a bush outside. I tried to explain what happened, but the words wouldn't make sense. They said Ward 13 had been sealed years ago, and nobody had entered in decades. I know what I heard. I know what I felt. Years later, I still dream of that hospital, of shadows sliding along the walls, of whispers calling my name, of something waiting in the corner of room 312. Something that still knows I was there. It started as a dare. I didn't think much of it at the time, just another urban legend for thrill seekers. The hospital had been abandoned for decades. No electricity, no staff, no patients except, as they whispered, someone never left. I arrived late in the evening, backpack slung over one shoulder, flashlight in hand. The front doors were chained, but one side entrance had been pried open long ago. The smell hit me before I even stepped inside. Stale disinfectant, rot, and something metallic I couldn't place. The first floor was quiet, almost unnaturally so. The silence wasn't comforting. It was watching. Paint peeled from walls like scabs, old hospital signs swung on rusted hinges, and the occasional flicker of my flashlight reflected in broken glass like tiny eyes staring back at me. I explored the main lobby first. Chairs were overturned. Dust coated everything in a fine gray layer. Then I saw the first smear of something darker, leading toward the stairwell. It looked like blood, but too faded, too old. Almost black. I followed it. The stairs groaned under my weight as I ascended to the second floor. There, the air was colder. The hallways stretched farther than they should have, peeling wallpaper curling like claws. Room after room was empty, beds stripped bare, medical charts decayed into dust. Then I heard it, the cough. Soft at first, then louder, echoing down the hall. Cough, cough. I froze. The sound came from room 208. I pushed the door open, and the beam of my flashlight fell on a figure sitting on the edge of the bed. It was an old man. Hospital gown yellowed with age. Face pale, sunken, eyes wide and unblinking. He looked wrong. His head tilted at an impossible angle, and his mouth moved in silence, lips quivering as if trying to speak. I gasped. The figure blinked. Then it lunged. Not physically, but mentally. My vision blurred. My heart raced. The flashlight slipped from my hands. When I looked again, the room was empty. I stumbled backward, shaking, heart hammering. The cough continued, louder now, coming from every direction. From the floorboards, from the walls, from above. I realized I wasn't alone. Hallucinations? Fear? Maybe. But my camera, the one I'd brought to film, had started recording on its own. The footage showed the old man standing behind me, whispering words I couldn't understand. Words in a language I didn't know, but somehow my mind recognized them as dangerous. I ran down the stairs, but the building didn't let me leave. Hallways twisted, stairwells stretched. Each exit I tried led me back to the second floor, room 208. The old man was always there, sitting, watching, coughing. I finally collapsed in a corner, shaking. That's when I heard other noises, whispers, footsteps, low moans. Shadows move along the walls, some thin, some thick, all wrong. They mimic patients, nurses, doctors, but their movements weren't natural. At some point, my camera picked up something I didn't see with my eyes. Behind me, etched into the peeling walls, were hundreds of faces. Patient faces, staff faces, all staring. Silent screams frozen in plaster and paint. I don't know how long I stayed there. Hours? Minutes? The building didn't keep time. When I finally stumbled out through the service door, dawn had broken. Sunlight didn't feel like safety. It felt like the building had let me leave on purpose. I never spoke of room 208. Not until the nightmares began. Because in every dream, that old man coughs. And every time I wake, I feel the weight of a hand on my shoulder, warm, pale, but impossible, waiting for me to go back. I don't know if he's still there. But I know one thing. Some patients never leave. I used to think abandoned buildings were only scary because of shadows and broken walls. That changed the night I went into the old St. Marian's Hospital. I wasn't supposed to be there. A friend dared me, but I told myself it was just curiosity. By the time I reached the front entrance, the sun had set completely. The hospital loomed like a jagged tooth in the night. Broken windows reflected what little moonlight there was, and the main doors were hanging off their hinges. Inside, the smell hit me immediately. Antiseptic long gone, damp wood mold, and something iron-tinged that made my stomach turn. My flashlight illuminated rows of empty wheelchairs, toppled gurneys, and peeling walls. The ceiling tiles were blackened in places, hanging like tired eyelids. I walked the first floor slowly, hearing my own footsteps echoing back. The air was heavy, almost like it was alive. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but then I heard the whispers. Faint, just at the edge of hearing. Help, help. I froze. The sound came from the stairwell leading to the second floor. My heart thumped so loudly I was certain anyone, or anything, above could hear it. But the stairs looked empty. I climbed. Each step groaned under my weight. When I reached the top, the hallway stretched farther than I remembered in the building's old blueprints. Like the hospital itself had changed while I wasn't looking. Doors lined the corridor, some hanging open, some closed, all leading into darkness. Then I saw her, a nurse. At least that's what she looked like, hospital gown, hair tied in a bun, but her skin was pale beyond human. She moved slowly, deliberately, her feet not quite touching the floor. She didn't look at me at first, just walked the hall. Her hands moved lightly over the walls, almost caressing them. "Hello," I whispered. She turned. Her eyes were hollow, dark, empty pits. She tilted her head, studying me the way a predator studies its prey. Then she smiled. I ran, down the hall, past rooms where I could see beds with blankets folded neatly, as if waiting for patients that would never return. Behind me, the nurse's footsteps echoed, not on the floorboards, inside my mind. I could hear her breathing, soft and steady, synchronized with my own panic. I tried to exit through the fire escape, but the doors led back inside. The walls of the corridor seemed to stretch, elongating the hall endlessly. The nurse's form appeared in the distance again, closer, silent, moving faster than physically possible. I hid in a supply room. The shelves were stacked with old medical supplies, glass bottles, syringes, and rusted equipment. My flashlight flickered and went out. In the darkness, I felt her approach. Not a sound, not a whisper, just pressure like she was breathing against the back of my neck. Then came the laughter. Low, childlike, overlapping dozens of voices. The nurse's smile stretched impossibly wide as the walls of the hospital seemed to close in. I could see dozens of faint figures in the corners, all watching, all grinning. Patients, nurses, shadows, all of them following her movements. I passed out. When I woke, I was outside. Morning light cut through the broken windows of St. Marian's. My backpack was gone. My flashlight, too. Only my shoes and jacket remained. I tried telling people what happened. They said I'd passed out from fear, maybe dehydration. But I know the truth. The nurse is still there, walking the halls, waiting for anyone who enters. And sometimes, late at night, I can hear the same laughter through my apartment walls. Soft, patient, and hungry. I can't stop thinking she's following me. I can't stop feeling her breath on my neck, even in daylight. Some hospitals aren't abandoned. Some just wait. The hospital wasn't abandoned when I first went there. That's the part that still messes with me. Everyone in town called it abandoned because it might as well have been. Eastvale General had been temporarily closed after a fire in one of the upper wards. Funding issues, legal battles, staff shortages. Whatever the reason, the doors were locked, the windows boarded, and the parking lot slowly cracked apart under weeds and neglect. But officially, it was still a hospital, and according to records I found later, I was admitted there. I was 22 at the time, working night security for a storage facility a few blocks away. Eastvale General sat on the edge of my patrol route, looming over everything like a concrete corpse. I passed it every night at 2:17 a.m., like clockwork. Same cracked ambulance bay. Same broken ER sign, flickering even though the power was supposed to be cut. That light flickering should have bothered me more than it did. One night, the side door was open. Not broken open. Not forced. Just open. I slowed my car, headlights washing over the entrance. The hallway beyond was dark, but I could see far enough in to recognize the old admissions desk. Papers scattered across the floor. A wheelchair tipped on its side. I told myself someone had broken in. Squatters, maybe. Scrap thieves. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped inside. The door shut behind me with a soft, final click. The air inside was warmer than it should have been. Not stale. Not cold. Warm. Humid. It smelled like antiseptic and old sweat, like the building had never stopped breathing. My flashlight beam cut through dust motes, drifting lazily, as if disturbed by my presence. "Hello," I called out. My voice echoed too many times. The admissions desk computer flickered on. I froze. The screen glowed pale blue, humming softly. Letters began to type themselves. "Welcome back." I laughed nervously and told myself it was some kind of backup power glitch. Old systems did weird things. I reached for the keyboard. Before I touched it, the screen changed. Patient name, my full name, status, admitted. My stomach dropped. I hadn't been inside this building before. I knew that. I would remember. but the computer scrolled down on its own. Time of admission, 2:14 a.m. I checked my watch. 2:14 a.m. Behind me, I heard a gurney wheel squeak. Slow, rhythmic. I turned. The hallway behind the desk stretched farther than it should have. Lights flickered on one by one, illuminating doors lining both sides. Some were closed. Some were open, just a crack. A PA system crackled overhead. Patient transport towards C. A woman's voice said calmly. Room 312. The same room number from the rumors. The gurney rolled into view. It moved by itself. Metal frame rusted. Mattress stained dark in places I didn't want to think about. The wheels stopped directly in front of me, blocking the exit. Straps lay open. Waiting. I backed away slowly, heart hammering. My radio crackled at my hip, but all I heard was breathing. Not mine. Too slow. Too close. Footsteps approached from the hallway. Soft-soled shoes. Rubber. Hospital shoes. A nurse stepped into the light. Her uniform was outdated, stained yellow, name tag scratched clean. Her face looked tired in a way that went beyond exhaustion. Her eyes didn't quite focus on me, more like they were looking through me. Don't worry, she said gently. You've already been checked in. I bolted. I ran past her, down the hallway, past rooms where figures lay motionless under thin sheets. As I passed, hand reached out, pale, skeletal, grabbing at my clothes, my skin. Voices whisper my name, over and over, each one slightly wrong. The hallway bent, curved. No matter how fast I ran, I never reached the end. Doors slammed shut as I passed them. Monitors beeped erratically. For poles rolled across the floor on their own, blocking my path. I ducked into a stairwell and slammed the door. Inside, the stairs went both up and down endlessly, looping in impossible ways. Signs pointed to floors that didn't exist. I ran down, then down again. Finally, I burst through a door marked Ward C. The room was massive. Rows of beds stretched into darkness, all occupied. Curtains twitched. Machines hummed. The air buzzed with pain and fear and something worse, resignation. At the far end of the ward was a nurse's station. Behind a glass sat a man typing. He looked up. It was me. Older. Thinner. Eyes hollow. He smiled. That took longer than usual, he said. I woke up in my car. Engine running. Door open. Radio blaring static. My watch read 2:18 a.m. For minutes missing. I quit my job the next day. Months later, after the hospital was finally demolished, curiosity got the better of me. I filed a records request. Old admissions logs. Just to prove to myself it hadn't happened. They sent me a scan document. Eastvale General Hospital patient records. Archived. There it was. My name. Admitted. Ward C. Room 312. Status. Transferred. Location unknown. Sometimes when I pass a hospital late at night, I feel it again. That warmth. That sense of being expected. And sometimes, in the reflection of glass doors, I swear I see myself inside, waiting behind the desk, typing my name.